interviewing and learning from some amazing artisans and experts at this event. I am here today with Ernie at the Treasury, a collection of gorgeous reproduction items based on original archaeological finds, and we are definitely going to be learning some really interesting things today. I'm hoping to hear some salacious stories too, because some of these pieces, just, they say salacious. So Ernie, what can you please tell us about yourself? What is your background?
Well, undergraduate, I did some anthropology and archaeology. Then, you know, life takes you where you need to go.
Right.
So I did all kinds of odd bits and pieces and wound up as a tech writer in the computer industry. But with a heavy craft background,
right.
You know.
Natural combination.
I came from a crafty family.
Right.
So my mom knitted and crocheted and all those kind of things. So I thought it was normal. So when I was introduced to the society, it was like, ooh, I can make those clothes. Ooh, I can make that thing.
And wear them.
And wear them, yes. And dress funny on the weekends, as we say.
Right.
And then it would be like, people would want accessories, and I'd be thinking, I bet I can figure out how to make that,
right.
Because I have enough craft background. And I was lucky enough to hit a couple of community colleges where, you know, where I did pick up some hints and tips on how to manufacture. A lot of community colleges has very good art programs that will give you all the basics to do the casting and stuff like that,
right.
That we do.
And then you can extrapolate from there.
Exactly. And I went back to school when we moved to Houston, because we moved around the United States. The tech industry can be kind of like being in the Army.
Right.
You go where they tell you to.
Yeah. Yeah, we know. We were familiar with that lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah.
So we wound up in Houston, and I was able to finish my master's degree at the University of Houston, anthropology with a major in a specialization in archaeology. And there we did sugarcane plantations and things like that. I had previously done archaeological field school through Wake Forest that gave us Native American stuff. So I had, and unfortunately, Europe was out of.
Back then, it was out of reach.
It was out of reach
right.
for me. I mean, I had kids at home.
Right, and it's not like now where you can just jet off for a couple $100
right.
and come back. Yeah.
And so it wasn't on the list, but that didn't stop me from studying.
Right.
And when the museums began to digitize their collections,
yeah,
it became a total gold mine, because no longer were we having to buy the expensive books. I still have a huge book collection. I'm
right.
bibliophile.
Yeah, ditto.
Nutcase.
Bibliophiles unite.
Right,
Blue
right.
sniffers unite.
Yes, yes. But it used to be you'd have to either find the book or get it on interlibrary loan,
right.
And some things weren't loanable. You had to, because it was too valuable.
It was in viewing only. Yeah.
Right, and then so I was always looking for that, and the articles. Now so much is digitized, it makes it so much easier. I used to teach a couple of classes on how to do inexpensive research,
right.
Basically, I call it researching on the cheap,
right.
And how you could, hit your public libraries, find out about the interlibrary loan and all that sort of stuff,
right.
But then tap into people who had done quality work and use their bibliographies.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm always telling people, works cited. Look at the works cited.
Yes.
That's where it's
yes.
at. Look at
and read it for yourself too, because it wouldn't be the first time I read something and thought, that seems odd. And then when I read to work, I'm like, they misinterpreted that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you get mistranslations.
Yeah. Oh God, I'm a professional translator actually. So yeah.
Well, one of the most common mistranslations we see looking at European things is the word pearl.
Right. Okay.
Perle is a German word for bead.
Yeah. That's true.
But sounds like it's a cognate.
Right.
It sounds like you should be able to understand it, and you can't.
No, false friend.
Yeah, false friend, exactly. So I see so many, I have a newsletter, and I keep my readers up to date on, various things that are going on in the archaeology world. And the number of times I have to say, they've mistranslated this. This word does not mean that word. They mean this by that. They're calling it a buckle. It's actually a brooch.
Right.
They're calling it a pearl. It's actually a bead.
Right. More generic than that. Yeah.
Right. And so there's all those little. And when I teach classes, I always try and put that in, so that if someone's doing research, they're not confused by it.
Right.
And if I read an article and it seems wrong, I assume it is, and I hope to get a picture.
Yeah.
Because then I can decide what it is really. You know,
I feel like I'm talking to a kindred spirit.
Yes.
I'm like, give me the original language. I don't want to see this translation.
No.
Let me tell you, as a professional translator, I never trust anyone else's translations.
I totally understand.
Just don't do it.
I would rather trust Google and use that as a baseline.
Yeah, I will go and look up every single word in the dictionary myself.
Yes.
And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Bilingual dictionaries are dangerous. You have to know how to use them properly, and you really have to just use a single language dictionary to really get the right definition.
Right. Well, and you know, we've gotten instructions when we purchase things before, where it's obvious to me that the person used what we would consider a second, third, or fourth definition of a word.
Oh my God.
And it sounds, you're going, what?
What on earth are they even talking about?
What are they talking about? And then you start thinking about what the other definitions could possibly be.
Right.
And then it makes sense.
Right, of course.
But you're like, you know, and I'm mechanically got good aptitude, but still sometimes you're going,
why would you choose that? Yeah. Why is the fifth option the most likely one in this case?
Yes.
So you have this in your shop. We were here in their shop at Pennsic, and they have a mini museum of real artifacts. And so what can you tell us about your collection? This is amazing. Are these things you've excavated yourself, things you've purchased?
These are things I purchased. The vast majority of these were purchased from Great Britain. They have what they call a portable antiquities scheme there to try and protect natural treasures.
Right.
They don't want your average metal detector just going in there, ripping stuff off and selling it on the black market.
Right.
Most of these are from older collections that I found for sale on eBay, and they were bought 25, 30 years ago in general. People would, in my mind's eye, I can see grandma sitting there, her husband was a metal detectorist, he's gone, this crap is still in the living room.
Yep.
And she's going, can you sell it for me? So she finds somebody who will sell her stuff on eBay for her and give her a cut.
Right.
She just mostly wants it out of the living room.
Yeah, she's done.
She's done. You know, this is, you know, or maybe even the kids or something are dealing with it. But a bunch of the stuff came from older collections of metal detectorists, and I would find it listed, and a lot of times the listings were incorrect.
Of course they were.
So, like, this piece here was proposed to be a Roman key, this piece here. And I took one look at it, and I knew it was an Anglo-Saxon girdle hanger.
Right.
So no one bid on it, because it wasn't a pretty key.
Right.
But
it isn't a pretty key. You're right. It's a terrible key.
That's right, because it was never intended to be a key.
That's an awful key.
So I got it for their baseline cost. So a lot of times I was paying as much in shipping as I was in the actual bid.
It pays to be an expert.
It literally pays to be an expert.
Oh, it does. It does. And then I would watch for things like this piece I bought from Great Britain, and a couple of months later I was looking at some bits and pieces of scraps that a metal detectorist in Holland was selling, and they had some letters. The Dutch used lead or tin letters on their belts to say things.
Yep, they do. Yep.
But there were some of those in there, which was kind of cool. But then I zoomed in. It was one of those high quality digital pictures that you could zoom in on.
Right.
And I spotted this guy, and I said, okay. And when I actually received it, they're from the same mold.
Oh, wow.
Except that one was in Holland and one was in Great Britain.
Right.
So we knew there was definitely,
right.
There's travel across the channel all the time.
Yeah, look at that.
But those two are from the same mold. One is a better cast than the other, but you can see that they are identical.
No, they're, I mean, yeah, the loops, the differentiation in the loops from, you know, the on the outside.
So I was able to, you know, it was fun to find something like that.
That's always exciting when you find those physical evidence of trade, of international trade and craft.
And we knew there was because I think it was Henry VIII that made some new rules up about pins, because he felt that the pins that were coming in from Holland were inferior.
Yes.
And so he required that the pins heads be soldered, which was not the traditional way that it was made.
Right.
So that added another step, and it slowed down. It was kind of like adding a tariff.
Right.
You know,
it was a physical tariff, basically.
Basically. So that you had that requirement, which was an impediment to the people who were making this stuff.
Right.
And there were other pieces here, like this little guy back here is a club, a Roman club, and it was being sold. There's this one way back here. It was being sold as a possible Celtic god.
Possible. Possible Celtic god.
Right.
Nice.
Well, what it
Fantastic.
is it's a club that had a loop on the top, and the loop wore through, so it looks like two little horns, but it's just a worn through loop. It's not horns.
Oh.
And I recognized it right away as the pseudocephalic clubs that they would have worn on their armor.
Right.
You know.
Already noticed your thimble ring in the case.
Yes. Yeah.
You're,
so there's.
oh, are you talking about this thing up here?
Yeah. This is an
That is
archer's
not-
ring.
that
Archer's ring. Yeah.
There's an
So
archer's
actually, I
ring.
wanted to ask you about that. What is this used? So what is that used for?
It is used for firing a bow, and what it does is, whereas we would wear a leather glove to
Right.
protect our fingers from the string,
Right.
in this case, you're using that as a release, so it's actually on your thumb.
You actually have. Do you have any left? You had some over here.
I don't know if I've got one that fits me. Let's see if I have one that.
So that
I'm not
that's
super good at this.
that's okay.
Yeah, I don't have one that
I'm
fits
even
me.
less good at this. So.
Yeah, right. They're oval shape, and you have to put them on sideways, and then you rotate them. But basically, what you do is you have that little tip there, that would, the string is against the point here,
Right.
and then you've got it full draw, and now you just release. That's all you have to do,
Oh,
and it's
you
not
just release
digging into your
thumb.
fingers.
It's not digging into your fingers.
Yes, and
It's
we
like,
see.
it's like medieval people were smart or something. Like.
Well, the first time I'm aware of it, it shows up in places like the Huns and the Mongols and all the horse people
The people who really use archery,
who
like
were
it's their
really
lifeline.
using. And then
Yeah.
one of those was sold to me as a possible Roman archery ring.
Mm-hmm.
My research on that has just been on the back burner because I had too many other things to research.
Right.
But I know that they had archery, so and they were not stupid. They adopted the best
Right.
of every culture
Of
they
course,
encountered.
it was their strength.
Yeah, resistance is futile and all that sort of stuff. But they were smart enough to adopt things that worked well for their soldiers.
Right.
So the fact that they could have been using archery rings doesn't surprise me at all. They certainly encountered people,
especially the
along
Huns.
the eastern
I mean,
side
yeah.
of their community that would have used that
Scythians,
sort of
Huns,
stuff.
all of those people.
And especially for horse bows. That's because the horse bow is incredibly hard pull,
Mm-hmm.
and in an awkward position because you're on a horse and you don't have a lot of movement to go with,
Right.
So to have something where you can simply, and you're not eating your fingers, and you
Right.
don't have to wear a glove,
Yeah.
and all that sort of stuff, it makes total sense. So it's just a cool thing. And then there's practical things like thimble rings for sewing, and
Yeah, someone recently asked me, 6 months ago,
right.
reached out to me and asked me, what about thimbles? What about medieval thimbles? And I
Uh-huh.
said, well, you actually have two different kinds. You have your thimble ring, and you've got your over the finger one. And then I said, I hate both of them. I don't like sewing with either of them because I need the dexterity. If I were going
Right.
to use any, I would probably use a thimble ring because then at least I have my fingertips.
Yeah, well, I don't like thimbles because they make my fingers sweat.
Oh, well, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that sometimes people don't like a thimble ring because when you take the thimble off, you're like, ew. And sometimes if you've been wearing it for a long time, your fingers kind of
Right. Yeah,
Spongy,
they look
kinda like,
spongy and pruny and a little diseased.
really weird.
Yeah.
But the thimble rings are very popular. They do work for those times when you have to push and you
Right.
don't want to
Yeah.
put a hole in your
When
finger.
You're going through 5 layers of canvas, for
Yes.
instance.
Yeah.
Do you have
just-
any? Do you have any thimble rings in your shop?
Oh yeah, I do definitely. I cast them in pewter, bronze, and silver. But this
and
is
they're even in different sizes. Dear
Oh
God.
yes, yes,
How
of
lovely.
course.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
well, you have to have them in the right sizes, otherwise, because you normally wear them on the first joint of your finger. Let's see here, like that, and then it's just a matter of which finger you want to wear it on,
right.
because different people use different. And I've seen some YouTubes from British tailors who say, well, you have to use it on this, and I think I might always say, well, you have to use it on whichever one works for you.
Right. Yeah. This is the one true way.
No,
And
I'm
thus
not-
a new religion is born.
Yeah, I'm not much on that.
I'm not either. I'm much more pragmatic.
Yeah,
So I was
so, you know.
noticing that these are actually cast so that
Yes.
there's an angle, right? It's
Yes.
flanged so that it actually
Yes,
fits
and the
over
original
your
has an angle to it.
right, which I
And,
noticed that.
Yeah, the top is smaller than the bottom, and because your fingers are
they're angled.
they're really not
They're not a
perfect
tube.
little
It's
round.
not-
You know,
not a tube.
well, if you think about thimbles, they are a little
Yeah.
round thing, and that's one of the reasons I think it's hard to get a size that fits your finger right.
Right.
And some people's fingers, I was making smaller and smaller ones because mom would want one, and then the daughter would want one, and she's tiny. You know, so
Oh,
I
so now
started.
you have
so,
these super duper
so they have
tiny
the tiny
ones.
ones,
Yeah.
and then I hit women who sometimes have tiny hands, and then then the guys who sew who wanted bigger ones.
Who need
So
the
I
biggies.
try and have a whole range of different sizes.
Which is generally not the case in your normal thimbles. You don't have 5 sizes for thimbles.
No, you normally have just a couple available, and I suppose there's specialist places that would have it, but
Right.
not commonly
Not
available.
commonly available.
If there were such a thing as Joann's anymore, they would have 1 or 2
Back
sizes.
in the olden days.
In the olden days, yes, they might have 1 size thimble. So I think people, when they have the experience of using one that fits properly, and then their hands are not sweating as much, they find it kind of handy.
Right.
And for those, like you say, the heavy things where you've got a rolled hem or a some sort of thing
Multiple
where you've
layers,
got multiple
yeah.
layers of fabric or a particularly tough fabric.
Right.
It's just it's a cool thing to be able to not stab yourself.
Right. And especially backwards, like for it to go back into your finger.
Yes, we've all done
Not,
that.
yeah, right. Not that I know. But it
Yes.
feels like for that back of the needle to hit your bone, you're like, oh, that's going to get infected, isn't it?
Yeah, really.
Iodine.
Yeah, really.
So what is the process of making a reproduction like these seemingly simple thimble rings? What was your process for this?
Well, in this case, I had the original.
Right.
So what I would do when I have the original is I look at the original and I determine if it's damaged.
Right.
For instance, I have some spindle whorls where you can see they've been hit by a plow.
Right.
So it's a lead spindle whorl, but it's got a gouge in it from where the plow hit it.
Oh, right.
So
Okay.
in that case,
Yeah.
what I would do is I would repair that spot with wax, so that I can
a good
remove it
idea.
when I'm done.
Right.
But it smooths it out, and then I would use a room temperature vulcanizing silicone mold material
Right.
to create the mold.
So you just kind of wrap that around it.
Wrap
basically.
around it, and then when you cut it open, you've got a perfect mold.
And it doesn't damage the original.
Doesn't
in any
damage
way.
the original at all. And now you've got something that you can cast into, because I can cast pewter into that, or I can cast wax into that if I'm going to do lost wax. Because some of this anything that's pewter, can be cast directly into a silicone mold.
Right.
And these are cast in silicone molds. If I decide I want to cast those as bronze or sterling, it's a lost wax process, which is a whole.
So I know what it is, but I'm confident that no one knows what lost. Not some people don't know it. So could you explain, in the most comfortable way possible, what is the lost wax process?
Basically, you have a wax model of the original, and that is put into a flask that is filled with a plaster-like substance called investment.
Right.
And then you have a way of getting that wax out, the channels that are built into it.
Right.
The wax is melted out.
Right.
And then and heated to a certain extent, so that investment the plaster stuff becomes really hard.
Ah, got it.
And now it's at about 930 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's sitting there waiting for you.
Right.
And then when you've got your metal melted, you pour it
Into that.
and you've got if you could see inside with like an X-ray, you'd be able to see the little channels and these sitting there waiting.
Right.
And then they just fill up with the metal, and then once it's cooled down to a certain extent, you can dunk it in water, and magic.
So you dunk the whole cast in water?
Yeah, you dump the whole cast in water,
everything
and
is
it melts the plaster stuff out.
Right.
And you clean out the metal tubes that were used to contain it all.
Right.
And you've got a base with these little sticks sticking up.
Right. Where
with all the stuff
the
attached.
feeder channels.
Yes. Yeah. And then you've got your pieces on there that you cut off, and then you just finish them. You'll always be on any of these things. You'll see a spot that's flat, where that's where the sprue is attached, and the sprue is the feeder channel.
Got it. Now, yes, I think a lot of people imagine wrongly that you pour some metal in, open it up, and it comes out, and that's all you have to do, right? It's done. It's ready to go, and they don't realize that there's a post-processing.
Right. I've actually done videos on that, because people are like, "Well, all you have to do is this," and you're like, "Well,
but
not really." And it depends. I mean, there's pieces like the pewter, which is, I mean, like there'll be a small mark where the sprue is attached,
right?
And then all I do is I cut that, and then I use a grinder,
right?
And I make that as smooth so that it's not rough on your finger. I also check to make sure there's no additional bubbles or anything else on the inside that would be. So I'm always sticking my pinky in there because some of these I can't put any finger in there besides my pinky, to make sure that they're smooth and comfortable on the inside,
Right.
and functional. But there's on bronze pieces and stuff like that.
So like this beautiful bronze pouch hanger.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's the difference between bronze and pewter then?
Well, the bronze and the silver both have to be done as gloss wax
Right.
or sand. I don't like doing sand because sand produces a rougher finish that requires a lot more finishing.
Right.
Whereas basically when this comes out of the investment, there'll be an end here that needs to be cut off. That's the one that was cut off.
Right.
And then I'll need to smooth it and stuff like that. But I don't need to do a huge amount if I've got a good mold to start with. But it's still, I mean, you have to get the plaster stuff off. You've got to make it shiny. You've got to, all that kind of stuff in order to make it something that somebody would want to have.
Right. Yeah. I think people have forgotten that this is a kind of mass production, but also not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it depends on the piece and how big odd shaped pieces like these. I can get 3 of these in one mold. That's it, in one flask.
Right.
So each flask is just 3 of these. And, that means if I want 8 of them, I need to use 3,
Right.
Flasks. So it's not as quick as people might think.
Right.
Something like this, I can create tree structures where the tree has the feeder tubes, and each one of these will be on the end of a little branch, like a leaf would
Right.
be on a tree.
Right.
And I can maybe get 20s out of a flask. So it's better than individual casting,
Right.
but it still is not instant. Now, if I were at like the company that I buy most of my supplies from in Albuquerque,
Mm-hmm.
they have flasks that are like this big and this tall.
Right.
And they have a kiln that it goes into that, you could roll a Volkswagen into. Or a Volkswagen plug into. I mean, it's that big a kiln. I've seen it open before and you're like, wow, okay. So they can do like thousands of pieces at a time. But your average person at home who's working as a professional only has a kiln that's this big.
Oh, right. So you're limited anyway. And
Yeah, you're limited.
No
Normally I don't put more than 16 flasks in there.
Right.
So you have to sit there and go, well, how many flasks do I go? What size are they? How many things can I put in each one?
Right.
And do that balancing act of what do I need most?
Right.
What am I out of? I'm totally out of a few things from this event.
I know there are some sad looking spots on the display walls, but that's a good thing because it means they sold out.
Yes, no, especially in the cast pieces, like there's pieces that are just, I'm out, I'm sorry, and that means that when I get home, I have to plan.
Right.
That I'm going to cast pretty quickly and I also got a custom lineup for the fall where people have me doing custom pieces for them. So.
That's what happens when you're good. People want you to do stuff just for them.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of people have been asking me about pins, and actually I don't see the pins that you usually have.
I have a small collection here.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah.
Yes, your dress pins.
The dress pins.
So everyone, you were all asking me about where I get my dress pins. Right. Oh yeah. Right. You're looking in the box. So a lot of and I use these on my veils too, and my hoods, and as I was telling everyone, I'm all
Your pin.
pinned together, right?
Yes.
Everything is pinned together. So
It's hard to hug.
yeah, it's hard to hug. So pins. I think people don't understand that we have zippers and
Right.
hooks and snaps and all that fancy stuff. People don't realize that in the Middle Ages, the pin was the essential part of your wardrobe, and that
Yes.
people had tens of thousands of them
Yes.
in a household.
Yes.
Right. So what can you tell us about these pins, the process of making them?
These pins were quite a process because we knew they existed,
Right.
and we were trying to find out how they made them and how we could make them well. And
Right.
we had done some research getting online and seeing what people were posting about it and seeing who was selling them. I'd seen some for sale here. They were not quite wrong,
Right.
but they were marginally right. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I always tell people you can't prove a negative, but we can say what we do know.
Right. Well,
Right.
you do find some pins that have more of a cylindrical sort of top to them.
Right. I've
But-
seen some of those in the Museum of London.
Right.
finds. Yeah.
But the vast majority have more of of a round top.
Right.
And it's not until the Industrial Revolution that we get the flat stamp tops that
Right.
we use now commonly.
Right.
So these have to be produced in 2 pieces. And we had tried purchasing some from someone in the Williamsburg area, figuring, oh, Williamsburg, they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Well, having visited Williamsburg, I shall refrain from making political commentary. Anyway, some of it was good, some of it was not so. Some of it is just show to keep the tourists happy.
Of course.
But it's not historically accurate. So when we went to look at this, my husband was doing some of the research for me. He's like, I really want to improve our pins and get them so they're spot on. And I'm like, okay, that's your baby. So we do the research on that. I was working on something else at the time. And there's only one of me. So it's like, okay, you do that, I'll do this. And he managed to hook in with a professor in France who had written an academic article on the manufacture of pins in medieval France.
Oh, wow. That's so wonderfully niche. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
And fortunately,
I love those
he
papers.
speaks French, and I don't speak French.
Also fantastic.
So he was like, and he talked with this guy, and he was able to get the article, and it's got some woodcuts in it, you know, and a lot of other kind of stuff. But we figured, we're like, okay, how do we transfer that to us?
Right.
How can we make stuff that's affordable?
Right.
I mean, if I have to do each piece in some sort of laborious hand.
Right. Labor is a completely different cost these days than it was
Totally.
in the 14th and 15th
Totally.
century.
Bodies were cheap in those days.
They were. The materials were expensive.
That's
Bodies
right.
were cheap.
And it's the other way around now. I mean, it's like I can't live on $1 a day.
No. Somehow you cannot. You're in the wrong country for that.
You know, there's not many countries I'd want to live in that
Exactly.
I could live on $1 a day.
So what was the medieval? What was the French? Let's say the French method of making
Right.
things. What did this archaeologist determine?
Well, they were mechanizing it.
Right.
So they were using machines to do some of the crushings and the drawings and the things like that we would do by hand.
Right.
So, for instance, we drew all the wire by hand.
Right.
I have a makeshift draw bench, a real draw bench. Last time I checked was like $1,500, and that just wasn't on the.
No, I mean, if you don't need it, you don't need it, right?
Right. Well, I needed
you can
it,
do something.
But you're like, I was like, so I rigged a way to use a come along sort of a cranky thing to pull, and then my husband bought me a winch for Christmas.
It's a good husband.
Because
Gets his wife a winch.
Yeah, I mean, it's like being a gardener and being excited because he bought you manure for Christmas. I mean,
Right, I know, but sometimes it's the right thing, right?
It's the right thing. It's what you wanted. It's what you needed.
Exactly.
And so he bought me a winch and used part of the idea of the setup that I had and made it bigger so that we could draw longer pieces instead of just short pieces.
Right.
And so I could draw the wire down. So we draw the wire down to make it stiff, because if you do this,
right,
it's got a little flex to it.
It does.
But it's stiff.
Pretty resistant.
Pretty darn stiff. And it has to be done that way. Otherwise, it's a noodle, because the stuff I got from the Williamsburg area was like trying to pin yourself with a cooked piece of spaghetti.
I have some of those reproduction pins as well, where you're like, oh, it's a snake shape. That's fun.
Yeah, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
You can't force it even through a loose weave.
Nope. At best, you might get a veil, but you'd be really lucky at that.
Yeah, so we made it. And then we did the big ones like this. And we figured out how to make the spiral heads, and the heads are crushed on.
Right.
It's called swaging, and it actually is a crushing process in which you crush them on.
With pliers or something more powerful than that?
More powerful than that. That's one of my few secrets that I won't teach.
No problem.
Yeah.
Just that's what I have to say. A powerful tool that probably would injure you.
Yes, it smushes you. It smushes them on. And then after we had the big ones working, then we made a finer size that are more appropriate for lighter weight veils and stuff like that.
Right. So are these the finer ones or the heavier ones?
These are the heavier ones.
These are the heavier ones.
So these would be, I mean, a lot of people use these for the wool veils, for the heavier linen veils, like mid-weight or heavyweight linen. But if it's summertime wear and that sort of stuff, and they're not using starched veils, then a lot of times they will go to the smaller. I am out of the smaller ones completely.
Of course, probably everyone wanted them.
Well, I didn't have a lot to start with because I sell them online too, and they got sucked out the door right before I came to war. And I'm like, oh,
dress pins it is.
Dress pins. And I also sell to Colonial, and I sell to a couple of vendors who do other venues.
Right.
So I'm selling the fibulas and the dress pins and the glass top veil pins and hat pins, thimble rings, to people who do East Coast colonial, Civil Revolutionary War, yeah, that sort of stuff.
So something you said surprised me. So you said in the Middle Ages they used machines to draw the wire, but you're doing it by hand. So obviously people are instantly going to say machines. So what kind of machines are you talking about?
Water powered machines.
Right.
Donkey powered machines, people powered machines.
Right. So it would have been like a wire drawing machine that would have been, or wire drawing setup that would have been powered basically by water or donkey or maybe a hamster wheel.
Yeah, really. Like a hamster wheel or just a crank.
Right.
You know, because you could do the kind of thing we're doing with a crank. It's just I much prefer using an electric winch.
now that you say that, there's a 15th century, the 12 Brüder Stiftung, the 12 Brother Foundation in Nuremberg. They sponsored poor people to give them job training so they could have a future.
Right.
And then they did portraits of them and made this like yearbook for the people they had sponsored there.
Right.
And one of them, he's a wire drawer.
Right.
And he's sitting there with a winch. He's got a winch there.
Yes. And you will see, like, it's just like in the United States where you have historic reenactment locations where they have mills where they're grinding things and all that kind of stuff. I've got a book in German that's detailing some of the pretty advanced concepts that they had come up with in terms of manufacturing. Things like, you know, a blacksmith today may use a drop hammer of some sort.
Right, but
they had drop hammers that were powered by water power.
Right, exactly.
And stuff like that.
Super efficient mass production.
Very, big belts. I mean, it'd have to be dangerous as heck. There's no OSHA.
I can't even imagine how many crushed limbs probably.
Yes, I'm sure.
Someone just trying to fix a hammer or something like that.
You know, so you had to pay attention.
Yeah, no OSHA. Also no disability.
Yes. And marginal doctors at best.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, they had that sort of thing to do things that could be automated.
Right.
So because it just speeds it up and it makes it less costly in terms of human activity.
Yeah, and something I've noticed as I've been studying the rise of industrialization in the first industrial, or second if you count Rome's industrial revolution, is that there's a correlation between the increase in industrially powered processes and the Black Death. Right. You have the Black Death, and instantly everyone's like, everyone's dead. Water. What can we do with this water stuff? And you know, these sort of sawmills and hammer mills.
All the inspiration. All of a sudden, you didn't have lots of extra bodies.
Right. Exactly.
Now your bodies were with a short fall.
Exactly.
So all of a sudden, you needed a way to make it more efficient.
Exactly. We don't have the people anymore.
We don't have
people. And also, they want to be paid more. I mean, the nerve.
How dare they?
The nerve.
You know? Yeah.
How dare they demand what they deserve?
Yes, really. Well, I mean, you know, things like the Black Death completely reorganized culture.
Oh, they do.
First of all, it was non-discriminate.
Yeah, that's true.
It didn't matter whether you were the priest or the mayor or the burgher or the princess or anything else, and you know, being able to flee town was not a bad plan.
Yeah.
Because
the urban centers
were worse.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, it was like they did figure out at one point it was a typhus that they were coming up with in London, and they figured out that all one of the typhus cholera sort of things, but it was bad water, and somebody had the smarts to figure out that the cases were localized around a well.
Yeah.
And they closed the well, and it was because the well was too close to too many porta potties. Right. Basically.
Yeah. And at least they eventually figured it out after a lot of horrible death.
Yeah, because there wasn't any antibiotics or any fun things like that.
People. So one of the things all of you ask me frequently, or most of you have asked me at some point in my community, is, would you like to live back then?
No.
Like a window. I would like a window with safety glass to look back. That'd be great.
Well, I mean, there had to be some places that were cool, but when you look at health in the Roman Empire, you can see the cases of lead poisoning and things like that from tin production and all these other things.
From the plumbing.
You can see all these bad things that we're doing to ourselves. The white makeups that are made with white lead.
Yeah. And I mean, just no antibiotics.
The well was too close to a graveyard.
Oh, graveyard. Oh, even nummier.
Yes. Yes, even nummier.
Even nummier.
Pickle juice. Yum.
Oh my God. On that horrifying note, let's turn to something beautiful, shall
Yes,
we?
really, something pretty.
You make these based on the finds? Or these?
Yes. Well, these are based on the pieces that I showed you, where one is.
So
from
these are
great-
the reproductions.
Yes,
of
these are
those,
the
of those
reproductions.
little rusty pieces.
Yes,
right? Those little
yes.
corroded pieces.
And so these are the kinds. These
And you
is what
said
they
these
look
were
like.
these were Tudor dress hooks,
Yes,
correct?
they're late period. So we figure Tudor maybe from 1550 on through 1650
Right.
in there somewhere.
But whereas these also are these Winnegus hooks.
No, those are also dress hooks.
Those are also dress hooks.
Yeah, those are also dress hooks. And then you have the straps, which we have some wonderful artwork from Bruegel. So he shows us how they're worked. You can either hang them off the front of your belt or the back of your belt, hook them onto your skirt. Now you have 4 hands instead of 2.
Okay, so this is that kind of dress hook. Okay, everyone. Oh, right. Duh. Sorry, my brain is like, I haven't seen closures like that. Not closures. Not
Well,
for
they can be closures.
They can be, but that's not what this is. Though,
Yeah,
right?
we actually don't know all the things they were used for.
Right. So
what it
this
comes down to.
this is literally for hiking your skirts up.
Yes.
When you're doing
Yes,
things.
with the strap,
right?
it is literally
Right.
for hiking
So
your skirts up.
if you look at Bruegel's fantastic paintings, I mean, jolly drunk peasants frolicking, you will actually see some of the peasant women, which doesn't mean they're poor, by the way, it just means they're farmers.
Right.
That they actually have their skirts hooked up, and these hooks are draped through their belts, right?
Right.
And that's what's hooking the hem
And
of
in,
their
in,
skirt
the,
up.
in the peasant wedding one, if you look at the back of the women's doublets, so they're coming down and they're pointed, and
Right.
at the bottom of that point, there is a triangular shaped dress hook that
Right.
is hooked into the top of their skirt, so that when they raise their arms, you don't get that gap.
Right.
So it's holding their doublets down in the back.
Wow. Now
And
that's very
there's
interesting,
multiple
too.
women in the crowd in the peasant dancing that shows that.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
So
it's-
some of you have asked me, how do you walk around with your skirts? Well, I don't mind having things drag on the ground, but if you want a practical solution, it's 16th century, but still, dress hooks with the complete finished with the dress strap.
Yeah, that's
which- the
handmade.
hanger
That's
strap.
tablet woven.
A tablet woven, no less.
Yeah.
That's okay, everyone. I'm going to tell you for $45, this is a crazy bargain. I'm just going to put that right out there right now. That's you. I'm sorry, but that's like probably half as much as it should cost. No, all of the work that goes into this.
Right.
Yeah. So
And
especially
the big trick with a beautiful outfit like you have is you never back up.
yes, exactly.
I learned that wearing a trail.
Exactly. You
Don't
always
back
you
up
always go
because
forward.
you will step on it.
You turn.
Yes.
U-turns for the win. Right.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Oh my gosh. So any questions about these very practical hanger straps? Everyone's going to be saying I want one now.
we agree with that. you
Yeah,
know.
no, I
have more tablet weaving waiting.
No, that is. Do you do your own tablet weaving, or do you outsource
in this case,
it
I
to-
have a friend who's doing it for me.
which is the right way, by the way. Your
But I do
specialization?
tablet weaving.
course
It's
you
usually
do. Of course you do.
but I just haven't had the time lately. I've been doing other things in the evenings, and so she'll do that in the evenings, and I'll do something else in the evenings. I usually making fibulas, or I'll be doing some other, quality assurance type check
Right.
on things. So
Okay. Yes. So. Right. Okay. So, what is one of your favorite pieces in this amazing shop of wonders? Now, because you cover what is your range of time periods? You have a huge, wonderful breadth here.
probably about 200 to 1600.
Right. So yeah, 1800 year period. yeah.
Approximately, yeah. Some of the stuff I occasionally do Greek pieces,
Right.
but most of my earliest stuff is Roman, and that the pieces are mostly from Great Britain that we're finding. Although I've got a couple of pieces from Yugoslavia and a couple of other things. They're pretty ubiquitous
Right.
within the whole empire.
Right.
But those things are probably those are the Western Roman Empire fell in 476 A.D. They left England in what 410,
410 or something
got
like that.
So that doesn't mean everything disappeared,
No, of course not.
because
Of course
there's a wonderful archaeologist out of Israel, and he makes jokes about the fact that people have this concept that when the Bronze Age is over, they blew their horns and they took their toys and went home.
Right. Exactly.
No.
And iron was born.
Right? No, it's a very gradual process.
Right.
And in the Bronze Age, you're still using a ton of stone tools.
Right.
And it's an evolution.
Yeah.
It's not, but for our convenience sake, when we're studying, we have to call it something.
Right, it's like-
So we tend to say, well, this time frame versus that time frame,
And
it does give you a clue, but it's very vague and it varies from location to location.
Right. And I think that people want clearly defined things, right? They want
It makes it so much easier.
They want everything to be cut and dry. No one wants to hear, well, actually the Middle Ages and the Renaissance.
It sort of blends.
Right, and it depends on where you are. It's more or less Renaissance-y.
Yes, yeah. I mean, Italy will be Renaissance-y sooner,
right.
than England will, or Scotland, or
But really, the medieval institutions are still persevering, and it's not really that big of change on a practical level. And no one wants to hear that.
No,
they want to hear
it. Oh,
draw plates
right
right over there.
Everybody knows where the draw plate is.
So what is a draw plate? Since she's,
draw-
and I guess that can bring us over here to the knit chains, perhaps.
Right, yes,
Yeah.
yes. The draw plates are used
No,
for
you're
when you've made the knit chains and you need to smooth them out and elongate them.
Right.
Because when you first make them, they look all lumpy and funny and weird.
Right.
And then when you draw them down, it makes it all nice and smooth. All the lumps are pushed inside.
Right.
And you wind up with a nice, smooth,
magical,
chain-looking thing.
smooth-
Yes,
smooth
and
chain.
when we were pulling down in class today, I kept hearing from people, "Oh, it's magic!
Witchcraft.
Witchcraft!" So, and this is a much older one, but yeah, that's how it works. I mean, and all the big lumps are on the inside now, instead of on the outside. So.
And this technique, so if you look in portraits in the 15th century in Flanders, you see this is still the style of chain that you see pendants wearing.
Once in a while, one of the problems is if, depending on the artist, there's another style of chain called loop and loop.
Right.
And unless you can get a really up close picture, you can't be certain.
But is loop and loop made in the same? Is it made in using a sort of wire knitting technique, or is it
No,
made
it's
completely
a
different?
totally different thing.
Interesting.
Loop and loop goes back. In fact, a significant percentage of the Roman pieces are made with loop and loop. Anglo-Saxons were big on loop and loop too. And a lot of times when I'm looking for a piece, I'm like, okay, is that knit chain or is that loop and loop?
Right.
And a lot of times the answer is loop and loop. Now the problem with that is it's much harder to make.
Of course
It has
is.
to be soldered or fused.
Of course, the Romans would have something that was harder to make. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, right. Well, what you have to do is you have to create individual loops,
Okay.
which are then soldered or fused closed. So now you've got a complete ring.
Right.
And then those are bent and woven together to create a chain.
You're right. This is much easier. I've
Yes.
done this.
Yes.
I have done Viking
Yes.
wire weaving. It is much, much easier than
And
any
the
of that.
fancy chains that you come out of Bali that all seem all woven together, sort of.
Right.
Those are made with loop and loop. And you couldn't pay me to do some of that stuff because I will do the simple stuff, but when you get more than just a couple, like you can do really elaborate ones where you're doing these tiny little rings and each layer is like 8 different rings and interweaving and
Yeah, that's
makes your head explode.
that almost feels like
Abuse?
well,
Self-abuse.
self-abuse, but also ostentation for ostentation's sake. It's like,
Well, it's a very, if they're done right, it's a very secure way of having a very sturdy chain.
right. But so is that.
Well, they're not that sturdy.
Well, I've abused the hell out of mine and it's never broken.
But you shouldn't put point pressure on these. So one of the things I always explain to people is like when you see a period chain that has something heavy, say a big Thor's hammer or something
Right.
on, it's used like this. So this has a whole back of your neck to provide support.
I see.
There's no crushing on an individual point. In fact, I have refused to sell these to people who wanted to hang a
pendant
big
on.
pendant on it. You ruin it because once you've crimped it, it's crimped.
It's crimped.
And you can try and fluff it back up, but you'll never get the crimp out of it completely.
Right.
So, and then you have to turn it into trim like they used it at Birkin. Whereas some of the trim on the wrist bands is loosely woven Viking wire weaving that has been hammered flat and then sewn on. So I always
Upcycled. It's been upcycled.
I always wondered if they found it out the hard way and squashed it accidentally and then went, could we sew that on our coats?
They were fond of heavy bling, and it wouldn't surprise me if someone thought I'm going to hang the biggest thing from my chain.
Oh
and
yeah,
then-
oh yeah. Well, they also use this same technique to make the little tassels that go on the end of your pointy hats.
Oh. Right.
And you make half of it, so it's sort of diamond shaped, except it's actually like a cone on a
Right.
cone. And you make about half or 3/4 of the cone, then you stuff colored silk in it, and then you make the other half, and then you can hang it on your hat.
Right.
I've only done that once or twice. It's quite the process. But yeah.
Again, looks like it should be simple, and in the end, the process is
It's not as easy.
Not.
Probably one of my favorite things for this is explaining needle cases to people.
Oh yes, please do. Because
Because-
I've actually depicted the original in which this one is based in one of my must-haves for the modern medievalist videos. So what can you tell us about this?
People will come in and they're, well, where are the ends?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm like, well,
So yeah, look,
prior,
there's
yeah,
open
prior
and
to
open.
about 1200, you don't normally see ends in Europe. You will see some Arabic made items that are more like this, and they'll have a cap on them and usually a little chain or something, kind of like a lot of the modern made ones.
Right.
But they were, and archaeologically we find it this way, they were taking a piece of wool, not loose wool, but wool fabric.
Right.
They were putting their needles into the wool fabric, which would have had lanolin in it,
Oh,
because
yes,
it wouldn't be
would.
completely scoured
And
the
that-
way ours
and,
would be.
and that would help preserve the metal.
It would help to preserve the metal,
Yes.
rolling it up and stuffing it in.
See, I didn't
And-
know that either. I always wondered what the hell.
Yeah, well, how
what
did
is
they
going
keep
on
them in
with
there?
this
Yeah.
damn
And,
case?
and we find them archaeologically that way with the fabric inside.
Right. So, and the needles would have been iron, right? Or are they finding bronze needles?
Bronze.
Bronze needles.
Bronze, and then iron becomes a later thing because iron is much harder to make itty bitty teeny tiny like that.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just
much,
simply
it's much,
yeah.
it's a less.
But actually
less soft.
the less refined irons are not as hard as we would think they were. 'Cause
Right.
we always tend to think it's in terms of steel.
well, right, and it's not.
It's
No,
high
that's
carbon,
yeah,
no.
exactly. No, steel. Medieval iron is nothing like modern steel.
No,
not
nothing.
even a little bit.
Nothing.
That's pretty fascinating. So that's okay. Now that makes total sense, right?
Yes.
You take your little piece of fabric, you put the pins in it, you roll it up, and you stuff it in.
Yeah.
And done.
And you're done.
And you're done. And it just doesn't fall out because it's fluffy, woolish. You know.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
it
you've
just
got it
kind of
crammed
fills
in
the
there.
space, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
People
So-
that's I've never bought one because I never knew how to use it.
Yes. Well,
Well, now,
I explained
now you
that.
can buy one from the Treasury.
Yes, I've explained that many times because it's not.
It's not intuitive. No, not in
it
the
isn't.
least.
I mean, you know, if you had a cork on each end, it would be intuitive. You
Yes.
go, oh, you just stick it in there, you know.
Right,
But then
it's
if your
like-
cork falls out,
Stuff wax and like you
Yeah.
take wax and stuff in. You write
Yeah.
a note.
I was thinking.
yeah.
Right.
And I don't think I've ever seen any out of Scandinavia until about 1200, which is post-Viking period.
Oh yeah, that's no longer.
That's
it's done.
medieval.
It's done. They're no longer raiding.
No,
They've
well,
settled
they
in.
may be raiding, but they're raiding under the Hanseatic
Yeah,
League or
yeah,
something
yeah,
instead of.
It's much
They're
more
changing
proper.
the titles.
It's much more proper.
Right, it's official. They wave flags and blow horns and stuff
Right.
rather than sneaking up on people.
Right. No more monasteries. So I wanted to show them some of these bronze Valkyries because, of course, as you know, I know most of my people aren't into Norse clothing, but there's so little visual evidence of how women dressed, and I know that some of these are the originals on which these are based are some of the few representations we have of women in clothing in this era. So what can you tell us about these bronze Valkyries?
These pictures here are the actual pictures. I blew them up, obviously, from the Swedish National Museum.
Right.
So what I noticed when I was working with these, I did this a few winters ago. I did it as my winter project.
Right.
My goal was to find all of the Valkyries or things that were listed as being Valkyries, because
Right.
we don't know if they're truly Valkyries or not,
Right.
in the
Who
Swedish
knows?
National
Who
Museum,
knows? Yeah.
and just recreate them.
Right.
And because it seemed like a crazy good winter project. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
I had my 15th century shoulder embroidery, so it's
Yes,
these things. You
yes,
never know.
and I blew them up as big as I could on a piece of computer paper.
Right.
And that's when you notice the details.
Yes. I mean,
You know.
these are amazingly high definition.
Yes.
Wow.
And like this
I envy
lady
this.
here, they think was Frigg, and she's got the necklace that was given to her by the dwarves. And if you look at her dress carefully, you can see the trim.
Yes, you can. It's funny.
It's harder to see on there.
I can now that I've seen it there. I know what I'm looking for
But
here.
when I blew it up as big as my piece of paper,
Right.
it was super
It was
obvious.
super
it just
obvious.
jumped right out at me.
Right. So like details like that, and these
And
teeny, tiny little
she's got a
ones.
shawl.
She does.
She's got the triangular shawl.
Yep.
You can see her hairstyle. She's got a bun up here. She's got a knot back here with long hair.
Right.
And she's got gowns that are voluminous enough in terms of fabric
Right.
to fold and pleat.
And form a train.
Yes.
And form a train.
And
Yep.
so, I mean, my conclusion with this whole thing was the point, the important things were hair
Right. Yep.
and clothes.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
That was the two
That's-
things. Because like on this chick, who is one of the calmest, most planned one, you can still see all the folds in her outfit.
Yeah. And she's got a
She's
train.
got a big hair buns in the back. That takes a lot of hair to give
takes
a
a lot of
fullness.
hair, or a
And
lot of
she's
fake
got,
hair.
Yes, or a lot of fake hair. We don't know. We
Yeah.
didn't know they did use fake hair.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of hair involved in that. Either way you do it. This woman here too. Again, now this is more like the burqa coats that I see people wearing, because this is obviously an overcoat of some sort, because the sleeve is different.
Right.
But she's got all kinds of trim and stuff on her, and again the knotted hair with the
Yes.
long
It's
thing
very,
down
very,
the back.
very similar. Very
Yeah.
similar to Frigg.
Yes.
Right.
And then here, the same thing we see. Now, she's also got the heavily pleated underskirt.
Yeah.
She's got the heavily pleated and decorated top, and the very long hair that comes all the way down past her
Right.
butt.
To her
You
damn,
know?
damn calves. I hate
Yeah.
you, whoever you were.
Really, right. Even your simpler little ladies like this, again, she's got all the trim and stuff on her
This
dress.
one, I've seen this one for years, and it's
That's
so fascinating.
common.
The hair.
A lot of times they don't give you good definition on the stuff, and I was determined to get as much of the
I
definition
mean,
as
just
I
look at that.
possibly
Look
could.
at her hair swept back, like
My
almost
guess is
braided
they
back
actually
maybe into a
braided.
bun.
I guess they were. I would
Right.
guess this is completely braided
Right.
and then put into the
Put
bun
it
in
in
the
the
back. So
bun,
she's got a
yeah.
lot of hair to be able
Yeah,
to
and her
accomplish that.
coat is fitted, right? You can
Yes.
see that it follows the
Yes.
contour, and full skirt with train.
Yes.
Pleats.
So lots of
or
hair
folds,
and stuff like that.
Whichever
and
it
here
is.
it's more the decoration on the drink, but again, she's got a big, gigantic bun that
Right.
tells us that she's healthy.
Relevant question.
Yes.
One of the individuals took a class recently that suggested the Valkyrie's bun is a knotted veil and not hair.
It could be.
I know people who have long hair who can actually do that with their hair.
Yeah, I mean,
I've
yeah,
met
it could.
people who could do that
I mean,
with
it
their
could.
hair.
It's
Could be
it.
both.
It could be
For those of us
both,
that don't have
right?
Yes, it could be both.
It could be a knotted veil.
You know, one of the things for a cultural value situation,
Right.
a woman who's healthy enough to grow hair that long and that thick, plus have all that fabric, is top notch.
Yeah, she's
Top
definitely.
notch.
She's not
now,
cleaning
look
floors.
at their faces.
Yeah, they're all very proud.
Well, but they're all not real people,
No, no, not at all.
and that's not
no,
important.
No.
That's not important. It's not important. And now recently I've been reading some stuff they're suggesting that some of these Valkyries that are portrayed may actually not be Valkyries. They may be normal women in a procession or something like
Right.
that. We don't know.
Yeah.
There's no way to know
do you,
that.
Do you know why the initial assumption was Valkyrie? Because it's almost like everyone's assumption is it must be of religious significance.
We have to blame
Right.
Yeah, we got to, you know, the standard joke in archaeology is
Yeah.
if you couldn't explain it, you called it ceremonial.
Right, exactly. Exactly. It's ceremonial.
You know?
The ceremonial chamber pot. Yes.
Yeah, really? Well, I mean, you know, when I used to work in the field, somebody would bring something up and they're like, what is this? And I'm like, Madonna's bra? I don't know. It looks like part of an oil lamp to
Right,
me, you know?
right.
But I have no proof that it was part of an oil lamp. I would just guess based on the shape and knowing what the technology of the time was producing, this was probably part of an oil lamp.
Right.
But, you know, for this kind of stuff, we see the Valkyries out of Sweden. We see similar Valkyries out of other countries in the area, down into the Slavic countries. We don't know for sure if they're Valkyries. People like to think they are. The women in the processions on the standing stones and stuff, that's been questioned too. Is it a procession going into Valhalla?
Right.
Or is it just people having an important ceremonial moment in their own, you know?
Right.
It doesn't say.
So it almost feels like the assumption that it's a Valkyrie is almost whimsical just because it adds an extra.
but I do think it gives
Yeah.
you cultural definitions. I
Right.
think the idea of having the hair and the clothes,
Right.
and in her case, the jewelry too.
Right.
That's the big important part. It doesn't matter what your face looks like. It
Right.
matters, you know,
Right,
the other
yeah.
part's the important. It shows that you're healthy
Yeah.
and you're comfortable financially.
I mean, some of these even look like. I mean, I always
she
honestly.
looks like a Martian.
I always thought Falcon right? I thought Falcon Woman. Like
Yes,
that's,
yeah,
I
right.
think, you know, my mind flits
And
back to
we-
ancient Egypt, and it's like, oh well, it's
Yeah, really. Well,
an
you know, I mean,
anthropomorphic god,
I think of
obviously.
her as being a little alien.
Yeah,
And
it really
you know,
does.
she wouldn't walk; she would hover about an
Right,
inch
just
off
kind
the
of
ground and just kind of glide along.
glide along.
You know.
She's a real woman though. Like her face, especially
Yes.
you consider the ages that she survived.
Right.
She strikes me as a real woman.
With power.
Yeah, with power. Yeah, definitely a
Yeah,
powerful
and this woman, despite the fact that she's not attractive, I mean,
Right.
that is a carriage.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the whole
this
you know,
bearing.
yeah. So I mean, it's fun. It's interesting. Some of the stuff you don't notice until you're carving it.
Right.
The you know, you're just like the little Anglo-Saxon pieces. That's a face. Those are eyebrows and eyeballs. I didn't notice that until I was I was just.
Oh,
It's upside down.
you're right.
Yeah.
No, but still, I mean, it works both ways actually, because big bushy eyebrows,
Yeah.
eyelashes, right? It's like,
Yeah,
Yes,
they
you're
were
right.
famous for this kind of crazy
You are-
stuff. They
you are
had
absolutely
I don't
right.
want to say they had a sense of humor, but it was like they were into these intricate, bizarre little designs
right.
that, you know, that like something from Teletubbies or something. It was just
So this caught my attention, a bead spacer.
Right.
So it's per pair.
Right.
So what is a bead spacer?
when you want to do a whole bunch of swags and you want to have them lay down on your chest correctly, you have the problem of you either wind up with all the swags coming into one point up here,
Right.
or you put them on some sort of a bar that allows them to swag separately. So that you're not, yes.
So that each string of beads hangs from each of these
Right.
spots.
And there's some groups in the Upper Slavic area, Curonians and stuff like that, that will also use them. Something similar you see in Egypt,
Right.
where you'll have spacers where the individual bead strands run through.
Right.
So the Curonians do that, where they won't be individual swags, they'll be like a collar like you'd see in Egypt, where
Yeah.
you have like multiple strands, but they all go through those as guides. So
Yeah, we have
you
this.
can use it
Actually, we
for-
have this in about the same time in Korea as well, in the graves. So
I think
I'm
it
pretty
was
certain
kind
it's
of a thing.
Yeah, it's a basic idea. It's like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
want big, wide swag. How do we
Yes,
make it stay
yes.
big and wide?
And you do see around the Mediterranean, different areas, you'll see they'll be made out of bone, or they'll be made out of ivory or wood or metal or whatever they have. But then they'll have a gazillion bead strands that go through, and that just controls the
Controls
flow and lays it down on you flat, so that you can have that extra bling.
And rather than having not beads,
Yes,
your bead
exactly.
nest.
Yes.
So what is your go on?
The necklaces that you do range from what era to what era?
Oh my goodness, yeah. There's
Again, it's from Greece down through 1600s.
So pretty much everything.
Yeah, that's all we do.
That's
You know, I will do outside of that area on special requests. I've done a couple of special Greek pieces for somebody, and I'll do odd things, like sometimes people want leg back hooks with their initials on them in runes. Okay. You know, I don't do too many of those because it's a matter of fitting it into my schedule, and I'm like, I don't think I have room for that right now. But you know, I've got most of them, like my leg wrap hooks, are what they call occasional finds. That means somebody lost them.
right.
And they-
Occasional finds.
Occasional
Code
finds.
for someone lost them. Got it.
Yeah, that's exactly what they call it. So that you know, I found that in a book on hooks, and I just went, okay, how big is it? You know, what's the pattern? You know, and I cast it.
So these are for Winnegus.
Yes.
For the leg wrap. Finally,
Yes.
we come finally to the Winnegus. The
Yes.
actual ones, not the skirt hooks, but the
Yes.
ones actually used to hold the leg wraps in place.
Right, and those are believed to be Viking. There's some here like this that are believed to be Anglo-Saxon, and then
Yeah, but that line really blurs, especially.
yeah. Well, we always joke about if you really like an Anglo-Saxon one, you can always say I rolled an Anglo-Saxon and
Right,
stole his leg
You know,
wrap hook.
it's especially in that era, the second half of the first millennium. You know, there's so much
Oh, yeah.
trade happening.
Oh
It's-
yeah, so
it's
much
absolutely
back and forth.
ridiculous.
So you know.
Judith, we've been going long enough. We need to plug the place and the event.
Oh yes. Okay. So Welcome to the Treasury. I'm here with Ernie. She is a retired archaeologist, as much as any archaeologist ever retires, and a master caster who reproduces a variety of bling and useful items. Also, sometimes those cross actually, from basically ancient Greece or ancient Rome with some some ancient Greece tangents, all the way up to 1600. So yeah, we've been discussing how casting works, the different kinds of casting. We've addressed some specific items. We've talked about the archaeological process and how you can actually use some of the originals of this bling to inform historical fashion, right? Which people don't all think about, that you're going to look at something this big and get dress details from it.
Right.
Right. And in some cases, literally, this is it. This is all we got. We don't, you know, there's some on the stones, on rune stones and whatnot, but not much. And actually, I'll be honest, the depictions of people on rune stones, this is better.
Oh yeah, well a lot of times
This is
they're
more
outlines.
this is more person-like.
'Cause I remember doing a couple of scrolls for people, and the little guys were just like outlines.
Yep.
And so you just put a little outline of the guy and a little hat, and that was exactly all that showed on the stone.
That was all it was. Yep. And of course, they're so stylized
Yeah.
that you might not know it's a person you're even looking at.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
you're going, what is that really?
And what? Oh yes, and we're at Pennsic, which is a 2-week fair with many different, as a martial aspect, a learning aspect, fun dance market, handcrafts, that's run by the Society for Creative Anachronism for 2 weeks from the end of July until 2 weeks thereafter. So if you're interested in coming and seeing any of this firsthand or shopping firsthand, check out pennsikwar.org. Okay, yeah, so here's the information one more time. So this is your favorite piece, the needle
Yeah,
cases.
that's one of my favorites, because
It's
people
so
are,
fun.
it's such a revelation.
It is, it really is. It was for me too, because I've seen the original of that in Sweden.
Oh yeah, there's gazillions of these things.
Right, and I'm like, what is wrong with these people?
How did they keep their stuff in there?
Who thought that was it? And then of course you go to, it's ceremonial.
No, we actually find them with needles in them.
Right. Oh, it's
just,
ceremonial.
So yeah.
Okay, well, is there anything you would like to share with my community before we close up? Any final piece that you're really proud of, that has an interesting history, that was particularly complicated or challenging?
Well, let's see. I think if you have a sense of humor, we could do Roman.
Yes, let's do sense of humor.
Sense
I
of
don't care
humor.
if I get demonetized. Let's do it.
Well, the bronze ones have also.
Yeah.
But the Romans were famous for their use of private body parts as good amulets
Yes.
to protect you from
course.
everything. So we have the male versions and we have the female versions, and any respectable Roman would have had one or the other. And
Do we know how they wore them? Like, were they sewn onto their
Necklaces.
clothing? Necklaces. Right.
Yeah, they say that a baby boy, when born, would be gifted a small Roman phallus and would wear them at least until the majority.
Right.
And then sometimes some would wear it forever, like soldiers tended to wear like something like this on their armor. Sometimes they would wear something that was more blatant, but sometimes these are the ones that were supposed to be
Right.
Celtic gods.
Supposed to be Celtic
because
gods.
it was worn through at the top, but I spotted that right away.
Well, not a Celtic god.
But right, but and strap ends, everybody knows what that is, but
Right,
it's an implication.
Right. Yeah. It's
Not
more
quite as in your
exactly.
face.
It's more hint of.
Yes, hint of yes. But then the
Now you see it, don't you?
Now I see it.
yes. But then the flying ones just crack me up. It's just the technical name for this is a winged fashionus or a flying fashionus.
Nice.
And fashionus is the word where we get our word fascination from. So it's the same root verb.
Right.
And what it means is you are putting away and preventing yourself from being damaged by the evil eye
Right.
by providing something fascinating for them to look at.
It is fast. I mean, literally, I can't look away. I'm like,
And these are simple ones. When I was doing the research, I try and always have like a smaller version and a larger version
Right.
of things, and then over time I change things up. But the complicated ones of these will have little guys on there with extra willies, and they'll have a vulva in the back.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, all kinds of extras.
You
So I
want
just
maximum prosperity and fecundity.
totally, and
Right?
and some I remember saying when I first started carrying the the Roman phalli, that people will be like, oh, I don't need fertility. I'm like, how about a raise at work?
Yeah, no, it's good fortune, my friend.
Right.
Bona fortuna.
Yes, exactly. And it's good fortune. It's not just fertility.
Right.
in
It's
the
just
sense,
it's just a stand-in for
but when
that.
when you, if you think about it, in the olden days,
Yeah.
when you have an agricultural-based society, everything relies on good fortune in nature.
Yep.
So if the ewe has 2 kids instead of 1,
Yeah. Abundance.
cool. Or
Abundance.
maybe I've got friends whose heritage breeds will have 3 or 4.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And they've
At a
got
time?
enough milk, yes, and
Oh,
they have
wow.
enough milk to handle the whole thing. So all of a
poor
sudden
goat.
you've got me really. No, those are ewes, those are sheep.
Also, poor you.
Yeah, really. But you know, they'll you know, the fecundity of the animals, is the crop good?
Right.
Is that, you know, there is no FEMA.
Right.
There is no, we're shipping grain from this other end of the planet to us to make up for the fact that our crop failed.
Right.
No, you either have good luck locally or somebody goes hungry.
Right.
So the concept now of fertility is people like, I don't want any kids, and it's like, how about a job
Right. Yeah. Right.
increase?
Just take
You
it,
know?
man. Just you want it.
Yes.
Trust me.
You want good fortune financially, and that's what it is. It's the whole shebang. It's not just this tiny little microcosm. You're worried about getting pregnant. No, this is
No.
This is way more than
if
this.
that's not good fortune, it won't happen. I promise.
Right.
Okay, so we are literally about to die.
Right, I understand. The batteries go.
The wax tablet is depleted.
Yes.
So, Ernie, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. And everyone, please shop the Treasury. They have amazing things. You need one. You know you want a flying phallus. Say you don't.
Yeah. They're not on the website yet. I'm not going
they're-
to put
they're-
them up until I get home.
They're going up. So remember to like and subscribe, and definitely come check out the Treasury on their website, or come to Pennsic next year. Otherwise, until next time, everyone, stay creative. Thank you, Ernie. Bye.